who are you? What do you do?
Sure, I'm Eric Smith, gameplay lead on Destiny 2, and I'm excited to dive into our sandbox changes.
Awesome.
Good,
Vivian,
good.
hello,
Melee
hello.
looks
Welcome
crazy,
to the live
bro.
stream format. We've seen you on Vidocs from time to time,
Better get
but
a lot of
yeah, for
information
folks
from
that
this.
haven't met you, seen you on our Vidocs. Who are you? What do you do?
Yeah, I'm Vivian Bex. I'm a sandbox designer on Destiny. I get the privilege of making like a lot of the toys that players get to use, you know, like weapons and stuff. Recently, I've
She,
been all over
her.
the sandbox team, and I have some very exciting stuff to show today. I'm really excited.
Man. Yeah, we'll get into that in a minute.
Okay, I'm
and
sorry.
last but not least, end of the couch, Bjorn. Taylor Bjorndal. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Happy to be
Who
here.
are you? What do you do here, buddy?
Taylor Bjorndal, associate weapons designer, sandbox designer. I've also bounced around and done a lot of stuff. Excited to talk about all of the million things we changed.
Yeah, right. I think the last time we had you on the couch, we were talking grid skipper roles and things like that.
Yeah, it's been a bit.
Yeah. So as we're diving into this, we have quite a
Grid
bit to go
skipper, who
through
cares
the show.
about that
And
gun?
to start, we're actually going to be in the shooting range. We're going to have our gameplay
Oh, yeah, this is
specialists
the
going
shooting
through,
range,
showing
okay.
you some of the new weapons, some of the new ability or exotics that
Yeah,
are going
let's
to be
get into
coming.
this.
But this will be playing in the background. You'll see them tuning a couple different enemies, playing around, damage types, that kind of stuff. To start with our panel, though, let's talk Armor 3.0. Eric, if we can talk about like where did we start with ammo? Where was it back in the day? Where are we going? What's the high-level vision for our changes?
Yeah, so when Destiny 2 launched, we had armor in the game, but there were 3 stats. There were no mods available. And then with Shadowkeep, we hit Armor 2.0, where we added 3 additional stats for a total of 6, and armor mods as well. And this is the next evolution for the new saga of Destiny 2. In Armor 3.0, we are adding, or we're reworking the stats.
What the
We're
fuck?
adding set bonuses, and we are adding gear tiers as well.
Yeah.
And
Why
the goals
set
with Armor 3.0,
bonuses?
so one, we want to make armor more exciting and desirable. When's the last time you saw a purple armor dropped and you were, thrilled to go pick it up and see what was inside? And then we want to rework the stats to make sure no stat is left behind, no stat feels mandatory, and give you further depth of build crafting in your armor roles, essentially.
Yeah, and then an underlying goal as well that I've seen you execute upon in the team really is approachability. There are a lot of new UI tools where you're hovering over perks, stats, all that kind of stuff. You're seeing actual percentages, you're seeing more full descriptions for things, helping newer players or returning players get reacquainted with the sandbox of Destiny.
Yeah, in this release and in coming releases, we are absolutely focusing on making the game easier to digest and understand what's
What's
going on.
this
And
shit
this,
at the
looking
bottom?
at
The special and heavy. Is that just for
the shooting
training?
range here
The training
is a
practice?
great example of this, like where I can just go and see how much damage I'm doing, and test out my weapons, test out these builds, and see the
I'm going to
actual
test a lot
changes
of builds
that
in this
my new
room.
armor and whatnot is giving me.
Yeah, and you can load in here with a full fire team of 6 if you want to check out raid boss damage, or just come in here by yourself, on Discord, talking to friends, shooting the stuff. So let's really quick talk about stats.
Oh, that's
This
gonna
is one of the
change
major
day one
overhauls. A couple
raids.
things are leaving, a couple things are being added. Really quick, if you could get a quick scroll through some of the stats, go ahead and give us.
Yeah, so we've removed some stats. We've removed resilience. We've
Wait,
removed,
hell, what the? We'll go back to that.
recovery.
Mobility.
Yes, and mobility. So instead, starting from the top, we got health. Then we have
Increased amount of health you gain.
melee and grenade, super.
I'm not trying to
class, and then
pause
our
it because I don't
weapon
want to have
stat.
to.
So this is an entirely new suite of stats, does different things. All
Play
of our
catch
stats
up.
now, instead of going to 100, they go to 200. So once you go above 100, you get an additional benefit put on top of the 0 to 100 benefit. And these, on the ability side, we are giving you kind of your uptime and how much energy you're getting in the 0 to 100 range. And then the 100 to 200 range, we're increasing things like damage, things like survivability, which is somewhere we've never really, gone into. And
That's interesting.
it's going to really give players more tools to customize their build, kind of pinpoint single, like I'm gonna be this badass grenade thrower that's just doing shit tons of grenade damage, or I could be more defensive or more weapon focused and all of this, right?
Yeah, we haven't had like a weapons stat before, and it's sometimes been you'd have to like hook into the artifact to make like a true weapons build, and we've kind of pushed further into that world.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think we saw some questions specifically about the weapon stat and PvP. I know y'all have been balancing in the PvP, making sure this is kind of like cherry on top. It doesn't change the time to kill too much. but it's kind of like a cost balancing factor, right? If you want that extra damage, you lose out on grenades, things like that.
Sure, yeah. So if you want to go all in on weapons, like your weapons are going to be more potent than they were before, but it's at the expense of your other abilities and that sort of thing. So we have done extensive testing to make sure we're not breaking PvP. That said, you know, in the first day that this comes out, the amount of hours being put into this by genius members of the community is going to dwarf what we've done. So it's a little bit scary how much change we've actually put in this. The team's worked so hard across the entire game. Everything you hear today it's not apples to apples with the pre-Edge of Fate numbers and feel of the game. It really across the game we have just
there's
changed
Rolt.
so much.
Or
It's very
Root,
different.
or however you say his name.
It's
Not
not
Rainbow.
really easy to compare the experience of what's going to be in the next
Nope,
release
never
to
mind.
what
Light Harbinger.
people are playing right now.
But at the same time, it still feels like Destiny.
Yeah, it's that
like
quintessential feel of I got my gun, I have my.
So this
abilities,
just has
but
to be
now
a
it's
test, because
how
what are
much,
these numbers?
agency do I
212,
have in leaning into some of
257.
these things and embracing like a role-playing mechanic.
Yep.
And one of the cool things is like internally, I think the most common thing we say on like our sandbox channel now has just like emerged as, man, I can't wait for 900. Like
right.
the sandbox is really exciting. There's a lot of really specific builds you can do. Like if you want to be the melee guy, you can be the melee guy more than ever before, right? And it's I think we're gonna see some really
I
crazy
mean,
stuff.
there's going to be
Speaking
some
of
crazy
some of
melee
these
builds with
different
what they're doing in
lanes, we
melee.
actually have 3 new exotics coming with the Edge of Fate.
Cooldown and
Each
damage
class is
for
gonna
the
get one new
sandbox.
exotic. Each embrace a different sort of vibe or theme, and yeah, you can see them on screen. I think first we're going to start with the Warlock exotic, and Bjorndal, you have all the details.
Sure.
All right.
Yeah, so first we have Yunoya, which is Warlock exotic themed around the Hellion aspect. What this does is after your Hellion fires, after a certain amount of time, the projectile is going to shatter into a bunch of submunitions that will like seek nearby units and scorch them. And so it kind of like adds a little bit of like skill play to something that was kind of more of a passive aspect in the past.
Yeah, and I think in
This
the,
is
in the
still
shooting range, you
nothing
can see, like,
changed, bro.
it can be both a single
Stop it.
target or a group sort of ad clear exotic.
Nothing
right?
changed.
It can kind of serve multiple roles, just kind of like amping up something that was like a trusty old
Stop
tool
forcing
to be
Ross into
something
builds
a little
into
more
turret or
that you
solar
have to, like,
builds.
manually aim.
Yeah, and you can like, because it like splits in mid-flight, you can kind of like control your spacing to like control the grouping of it. If you want to hit one
I
target,
mean, it does a little
you know, if you're
splatter
not
and
very
then
close,
tries,
it'll
but
fire,
it's
and
not
they'll
that.
burst way
This
earlier
isn't
than before.
exotic level,
Or
bro.
if you like get way
This
back,
is
you can
like-
just blink at a region.
Aspect level.
Love it. Yeah, and we can see
At
on the screen
most.
too, like some of the looks of the exotic and the Hellion have changed.
Yeah, so like while you're using the exotic, the Hellion itself, like the little solar buddy, will have the same X that the gauntlets do. So it's like a nice little nod to like
Like a
match the
visual
exotic.
touch. Okay, yeah.
This thing looks so metal. I'm like so about having that big gas canister on my arm, having that like flamethrower warlock arm is so cool. I may have to start switching play warlock.
Love it. Next up, I believe
Oh
we
my
have Hunter on
god, I
Dock.
just cringed.
Yeah, so the Hunter exotic is Morai, which is a strand-themed exotic that's.
Oh, it got removed. It got
It's like
removed.
Tangles, where you can basically like.
Oh my
yo-yo a
god,
tangle,
bro.
throw it into the field back in your hand, and then throw it again. So the way this works is
Oh,
if you have a
subscribers
tangle
only,
out in
yeah,
the
I'm not
field, you
subscribed.
throw
Damn.
your strand Hunter melee at it.
They got that
it'll
nigga
pop
out
the
of here
tangle,
fast,
and then
bro.
Bring one back to you that if you catch the spike, you'll get another tangle. So you can like duplicate a tangle, which works really well with a lot of Strand Hunter aspects like Whirling Maelstrom and just like the existing tie-in with like grappling to a tangle.
Oh,
So
boy.
You get like even more mobility and a lot of like ad clear potential. And
I don't know about
also
this one.
It will return more energy when you catch it as well. So like even if you don't hit anything or you don't grab a tangle, so it helps you keep that engine going.
Yeah, you can see the strand energy attached to the threaded spike. So if you grab that, I love how we're rewarding that like perfect grab.
Yeah.
I
It's
can already hear people yelling "spin to win" as they're
Yeah.
spamming these things,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I mean you can have.
I mean, that's
3
kinda nice, though,
blades out
that
in the
when you catch
field at
it,
any
you
time,
get
essentially.
the
It's
And you're like zipping
bang
between
back,
the
and
tangles
then you
with
can
grapple. It's cool as
grapple
hell.
it, and
it's very
then
strong.
do
It's also
another
gonna be
man.
very
I guess
strong
that's kind of
with
cool.
this, artifact
Oh, yes.
upcoming, which we'll talk about. But another cool tidbit about this is the threaded spike will bounce to the tangle from enemies as well.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
it's something that has
Did it not
a lot
always
of
do that?
easy use and really rewards skill at the same time.
Yeah, I think before we move on to
Wanted to
Titans,
see it bounce to the
sorry,
tangle.
Titans, we'll get to you in a second. Really cool exotic. I do want to talk about Gambler's Dodge. In the last TWID, we talked about a bunch of abilities changes, exotic tuning, that kind of stuff. And we saw some chatter around Gambler's Dodge. It was updated and reworked, right?
Yeah, we have
avoiding
reworked
combatant
Gambler's
attacks and
Dodge.
generate
So
melee.
it's the energy you get when you dodge now scales on your melee
Energy
stat.
gain is scaled by your
But
melee
you no
stat.
longer have to dodge near enemies to get that energy. So I can dodge anywhere in the game. I don't have to worry about this invisible circle that's around me to know if I'm close enough. It is going to feel more consistent. If I build into melee, it's going to feel more powerful.
But do you still get the
and,
full thing back if you do it near
There's
enemies?
also, Taylor, you were talking about
Yeah.
the multiple charges, right?
So if you
Bro, melee build's
like our
about to
bar for a lot
be
of the stuff is if you
crazy.
are at 70 stat, you'll get the full refund like you used to. But if you go beyond that, you'll
Okay,
actually
so you
get
still
a
get
little
the full
bit more,
refund.
which most of the time doesn't matter. But like if you're using like a Fidious Bathe or any of the multi melee things or Stasis Shurikens, it'll go up to like 1 1/3 charges. So you can keep that going even better if you're fully invested in melee. So you have like more reasons like to invest in it.
In the
If you
melee
want
stat.
more melees, you want them to be more damaging, then you just go all in on that, and it will still do
like
stuff.
just so many shurikens.
Yeah.
Just an embarrassment of shurikens.
Which is great. Like
That's good. That's a buff to Gambler Dodge.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
and then I won't be bothering you. and
That's
saying,
literally
"Go
a whole
kill this
buff.
thing, let me do my dodge.
Yeah,
anytime.
you can just do it wherever you want.
So,
Yeah.
let's go on to Titans. So this one thematically,
And-
I think.
okay,
For
ooh.
me at least, I'm just like
Fire Spider-Man,
you're
your
a forge
combos.
master.
Yeah.
Forge
So
Master.
this is Melis Panoplia, which
Allow you
is
to recall your hammer
exotic
after
name
to
impacting the
say.
target.
As we get deeper into Destiny, the names get a little.
Fervent recall,
yeah, but
causing
go
an
ahead.
explosion of force
it's
slag.
exotic themed around something
Her
that people have been
recalls
asking
when
for
fire
a long
spider
time, which is
from
kind
force
of the
master.
fantasy of Thor's hammer. Of I want to be able to pull my hammer back to me after I throw it. So there's like a little minigame loop here where you get a fire sprite, you pick it up, then you get a buff that lets you pull the hammer back to you. And if you pull the hammer back with good timing, it'll explode and to like solar shrapnel and hit stuff for like extra damage on the way back. Kind of like how Hammer Saw works, and I think the hammer also will damage things on the return trip too. So if you
Can we see that?
position yourself well, you can actually like send it back through guys.
Line 'em
on the way
up.
Back, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've wanted to do this for a long time, but it's been kind of a scary,
Complicated.
Yeah, it's hard to balance this sort of thing where it's like it returns all your energy, but it also you can pull it back to you at any time. So Alex, our designer,
So you don't have to face
knocked
it
out of the
either.
park as far as
Can I see it go through an
the
enemy on the
cancel out,
return?
the balance and the activator,
Right here?
and the
Okay,
performance.
it looked like it was.
performance.
Yeah.
I don't
You were
know.
talking about the animation, right?
Yeah.
Before this.
I love the performance on this thing. We've got like this beat where it's like all this magnetic like handshaking. It feels so good. We actually did like a
And then you
new
get a
tech
fire sprite,
thing
so
on
then
this
that's
where
melee energy
if
back
you're, like,
if you
looking off
didn't
to the side,
call it
we
back.
kind of move the player's hand a little bit, so you're like still kind of actually pulling the hammer. And that's like the first time we've done that with like a world object, and it's very cool. It feels really good.
Awesome.
It's super satisfying.
Damn,
I
that goes
think,
far, bro.
So we're going to be getting into some more gameplay and an actual activity in a minute. But before we go, I do
Bro,
want to
call
ask
it
for
back through an
stats.
enemy.
And actually, two things. With your exotics, there are going to be gear bonuses that you can build on top of, correct? And that's a new Armor 3.0 feature.
Yeah, so gear bonuses when a new armor set drops. If you have 2 or more pieces from that armor set, you will get an additional perk. If you have
Okay.
4 or more pieces from that armor set, you will get another perk on top of that. So I could take 2 pieces from one set, 2 pieces from another set, and then an exotic, and I have like more perks than I've ever had before on my Guardian, and it's really enables you to expand your build crafting in new ways.
Okay,
Basically, we have
Bungie, we're doing
basic
gear
build
sets.
this
I
in
better
build
see
right
some
now.
crazy
Gameplay
bonuses.
specialists could inspect an armor piece.
Don't undersell it and
You can
think, oh, it's
see-
gonna be
yeah,
TLP.
here's
No,
some of the
nigga.
destination,
Give me some
armor
crate. Okay, let's
bonuses
see.
that you can get.
Momo Rocket
Yeah,
against
so
Speed
at
Booster,
2
bro.
pieces, we have
No.
Force Converter. At 4 pieces, we have a Reactive Booster. And
Bringing that
Okay,
critical
I was
health
just gonna say,
being
like, so,
suspended
yeah,
and being
these are
slowed by
unique
phase
to
warp.
the armor set
Nigga, I don't
itself.
need
Something
speed
more than just,
boosts.
like cosmetics that you might want out of these.
Gives you another reason to like go to
Right.
a specific place and pursue a specific armor set besides just fashion. Although fashion is still very
Although
important.
You can
Very
still
important.
use your armor synthesis and
yeah.
put the looks on these.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I mean,
God,
you, we
bro,
also
give
get
us
to
some
make
better
perks that are
looking
like,
armor, Sue.
I'm the-
Warlocks
the
are
this
drowning.
guy, you know, because you're investing so heavily in the four-piece perk. But what's really cool about this is like, I think this is going to be very cool at live when we like launch. But I think in like 2, releases or whatever, just a little bit in the future, we're going to see people go like, hey, remember that armor that I
Mixing
got?
like something from 2 seasons ago.
Right,
with
the
now.
2-piece perk from Kepler is really cool with whatever, and we're really excited about that.
Yeah, and then the second piece of this is going to be for the stats rework. Some of the fragments are going to be reworked as well to adopt new stats or change, right?
Yeah, so fragments still can adjust your stats up or down depending on your build. And some of these, because we've deprecated some of our perks, or stats rather, some of these are new. Like we're going to have, some of these will have weapon stat, which never have happened before, which just opens up new build crafting avenues. We're gonna kind of wait and see how this lands, how the dust settles for all of the stat stuff before we go in and adjust these further. But yeah, I think players have a lot of different ways to build out their stats and become the grenade master, the weapon master, and whatever they want to do.
So quick shout out, Dark Slifer, Childish CG, and Snivvyland for those last 2 questions. They actually asked them ahead of time. Feel free to keep dropping questions in chat. I'm glancing down here every so often. Now it is time to move on and let's talk about some new stuff. Vivian, you have been very excited about a new weapon archetype that is coming with the Edge of Fate.
I sure am.
A weapon archetype
for
or a type of
centuries,
weapon?
Humanity has wondered, like, what would a legendary bow look like in the heavy slot? And today I have your answer.
It's called
we are-
Leviathan's
We are
bow.
building a crossbow. It plays like a new archetype, but it is technically a bow for the purposes of, it's gonna fill all your bounties, that kind of stuff. Now, so when we went to go make this, we knew it was a very cool fantasy, right? We want the feeling of like really drawing it back and it hitting a single target and doing a ton of damage. But we do
That's
have linear
Leviathans.
fusion rifles, right? And that's always the question is like, what does this do that's different? What's the fun gameplay here? And we settled on, well, when you shoot that big heavy bolt and it hits your target, you can just go pick it back up. So this thing theoretically is a heavy weapon with unlimited ammo. You can use the same bolt for an entire Nightfall if you want. I would love to see someone do that. Go clear a dungeon without ever using anything else or whatever, It's very cool. You have to put yourself in danger. You have to go grab it. But it's just such a satisfying loop to just like pull it out of some, dead hive. Just put it in the rail, pull it back, use the same bolt to shoot someone else. It's great.
I saw last week in a PvP playtest, I saw someone run the entire map with a single bolt.
Yeah.
You guys need to pay
Kept
anything.
it alive for minutes on end. It was
That was me. I'm sorry.
I can hear the PvP mans like when you said infinite heavy ammo, they're like,
Oh, no.
excuse
Oh, no.
me?
Yeah,
But it's like, you got to go
You
pick
gotta
that
go
thing up.
get it. Yeah. So it's not free, but
And-
it is very potent.
Yeah. And in PvP, you only get the one. You got to get the headshot.
Yeah.
And it's very funny. It ends up being like this game of like keep away, where you're like, we cannot let Taylor get near this thing. Like,
So as we're going into this activity, we'll get some gameplay footage. This is a good example of the portal system that we'll be talking about next week on July 1st. Make sure to tune in. But we're going to be taking some content from just the history of Destiny, and it will be in the portal to go in and play. Power progression, we'll be talking about that next week, so stay tuned for that. Vivian, back to the heavy crossbow though. You were talking about this being legendary, so that means random rolls,
Yep.
and you had mentioned bolts.
Yes, yeah. So we had a really fun opportunity when we were making this, where we go to the talent grid, and we always want to make stuff kind of like new and different. And we got to the talent grid, and we were like, this thing does not have a magazine. We cannot put magazines on this, right? And it gave us the opportunity to like really go, what would like a different magazine plug system look like? And so what we ended up going for is like, we have bolt types, and the bolt types, instead of just being stats, they're going to alter the way the bolt actually behaves out in the world.
Yeah.
So we've got, one of them is like explosive bolt, where it's gonna put in a target, it'll like beep, 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 and it'll just explode. kind of
Like a
a
solar?
grenade launcher. And then we have my personal favorite is that we have serrated bolts. I remembered to say the shipping name this time.
Oh, you can say, yeah.
used
If
to
it
be
doesn't have
tactical.
3 names, it's not real game dev.
Yeah.
I never know when things go live. I never know. I'm like,
yeah.
oh, you guys know better than I do
But
the
yeah,
names.
go ahead.
But yeah, so we have serrated bolts, and you can put like the bolt in a target with serrated bolts, and you can normally draw them back out of living targets. But if you have serrated bolts, they're gonna deal damage on the exit too. And it is so satisfying
Okay, that's nice.
to like land the final hit with the pull, and you just pull
Yeah,
back
I know what you
your
mean.
bolts, and you get them, and they just go flying.
I'll take
It's
that
great.
back. Yeah,
Like
yeah,
instead
when
of
you
killing
first
on a
brought this
boat
up, I was
hitting
just
them,
like,
it's
that's
when
so
you pull it
metal.
out.
But
Yeah.
yeah, gimme.
It's something.
Really quick, just on the topic of ammo, there are new ammo meters. Bjorn.
Yeah,
we're gonna talk
I was
about this
meant
in
to
the
ask
fire
that.
and
What's
range
that
shooting.
ammo meter at the
But
bottom?
we actually have some live gameplay where we can see these meters
Right down here.
working out. Can you talk us through what is this new system? How does it work? That kind of stuff.
Yeah, so there's been a pretty big shakeup in the way that ammo works in the game, where in the past it wasn't really anything that you had too much control over, but now it is something that you have like a lot of control over and a lot of build crafting hooks to optimize or like make your own. And it almost like kind of works like an ability or like a super does now, where it lives in your weapon tray. You can see there below the weapons on kills and assists with anything that'll tick up. And then when you hit full, the next kill will drop you a brick of that type. So there's a lot of things you can do now that you can build into to like have a lot more control over the pacing of when you're getting that.
Sweet.
And like there's a bunch of armor mods that exist now that like pretty much all the things that used to be finders or inventory now fit into ammo generation, which is like a new weapon stat.
Okay.
So players
Ammo
have a lot
generation
of
is a
different
weapon
ways
stat?
to kind of build around that, depending on like if you have a really ammo hungry special weapon, then you have some options now
Yeah.
to actually make that easier to feed.
And we'll be talking about this in depth in a future Twitter blog, so stay tuned for that, especially PvP heads. I've already seen conversation from our content creator videos going out. But before we get out of combat, I do want to talk about, alongside the new weapon archetype of the crossbow, we have some new weapon frames coming to the game.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah. So let's start with the hand cannon.
All right, yeah. So we have the spread shot hand cannon. It's like a big, chunky, beefy hand cannon that fires shotgun pellets.
Okay.
Very close range, but hard hitting. 2-tap PvP. I'm a little afraid of that, but you know,
But
I'm
it's
sure it'll
close
be
range,
great.
right?
Yeah,
Like-
it's very limited. It's like a sidearm, like big punchy sidearm, but like even less range than a sidearm.
Look
but,
at
like,
all
less
these
precision
perks.
This thing has become my baby.
Trench
I
barrel,
love this thing.
1-2
It's
punch.
pretty great.
It's kind of like
With a
having
spread
a
shot?
buff that's
Yeah.
like a primary ammo, and it is just so good if you play
Oh
aggressive
my
or you use like other
God.
abilities to hit people.
It's
or
really
just
good
want
as like a
to
mixer in between other stuff.
Right, and that's exactly how I play. So I love this thing.
And second, so shout out to Sammy Cat, resident bow lover. She does full solo dungeons, HUD off, bows only. We have a new bow frame that's going to be coming.
Yeah, so we made a longbow, which is like a big, heavy war bow. Even slower draw than precisions, but more damage, and it has intrinsic overpenetration. So if you line up a bunch of thrall and you like hip fire a full draw, it'll just go straight through all of them with one shot.
It's kind of dope.
I love that our
But
damage
I don't
numbers
see it being
have been
misused.
squished a little bit. So they actually mean something now. Because if you look
Yeah.
at how much damage this bow is doing compared to like each one of those pellets in the hand cannon.
Yeah.
Right.
Like when like in the live game where it's like I did 20,000 damage with a shot. It's like
Yeah,
the
it's hard to
numbers-
compare.
Yeah,
Right,
start to be
right.
meaningless. But for me, we've just changed so much, and I can't overstate like how. Yeah, how much has changed and how this game is I guess evolving.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of those changes are like they go hand in hand, right? Like us changing the stats around, us making new builds possible. A lot of these changes are all like they're all going to kind of combine to create something new.
Yeah. Did you see that front shielded ogre?
Oh,
With
boy.
we have a new. We'll talk about this next week.
Yeah.
But the new Banes are incredible. I'm very excited for players. To,
Oh boy,
Yeah.
yeah.
God,
New
Banes are
new
fucking
modifiers, all
annoying.
that kind of stuff. And then the final weapon we got on tap is going to be a special weapon, another burst, shoots explosives.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it.
A rocket is
I
a
know lot of
rocket
people are big
pulse
fans of
rifle.
rocket-assisted sidearms. Now we have a rocket-assisted frame pulse rifle.
What the fuck?
It's a similar role, but a little bit different. It's a little more ammo hungry than the sidearms. It got a bit more range and hits a bit harder. So it kind of fits in between like a fusion rifle and a sniper rifle. Also kind of fires a little bit differently than pulse rifles, which is interesting, just because like all of the pulse rifles have, like, different bursts of weight, but
Put it
when
the
you're
fuck on.
firing each pulse, they all have like the same rate of fire. So this, instead of being
Oh, no.
like the brr, it's like a bop bop bop.
Oh,
So
no.
it feels heavier and it's firing
This
these,
can
like,
be good.
big, slower projectiles. So
Oh my god,
feels
the
chunkier.
perk setup.
Thank you for,
This can be
doing it,
good.
Samuel.
Yes,
Impressive there.
I aspire to greatness.
Yeah.
This thing is like.
Please tell me this
real
is
heavy,
craftable
but it's
too,
also,
bro.
You know, like we said, it's like pretty ammo hungry. One of the cool things about 900 is like we have the ammo stat. You know, you can build into that. You can eliminate that downside, and now you can see it working.
Yeah, same for the longbow too. Like there were some perks on the
Edge of
rifles that you can
Ziegler
go with
Wrath? What the
less than the
fuck?
draw time. Like sure, it's still going to be a little bit slow fiery, heavy hitting, but there's a bunch of ways that you can build craft and tune.
They've
these
been in
things
this room
and
for a
feel good
minute.
you.
God
Yeah,
damn.
like one for all or other things that care about hitting multiple targets.
Yeah, right. So as we're going through this transition, we actually have a bunch more to cover, and gear tiering has been top of mind for a lot of players ever since our reveal stream. So Eric, I'd love to dive in and just revisit what's the high-level vision statement for gear tiering and how we're getting players reinvested in some of that.
Yeah, so gear tiering enables players to look at a piece of gear at a glance and like understand how powerful it is. So you can see those kind of 5 icons or 5 little dots there. This is a 5th tier armor piece we're looking at. And the stat package or the stat pool that each piece gives is going to depend on the tier. So you can see at tier 1 is going to drop between 52 and 57 stat totals. And then at tier 5, you are guaranteed 75 stats plus stat tuning, which lets you kind of add some.
Yeah, shout out to, there were a bunch of folks that were asking, what are stat bands? Because in the game right now, it's what is low to a given player. Like 62 feels low, but an actual definition is like 58 or lower.
Yeah.
In the game now, we have UI that tells you exactly what are the stat bands for each of the tiers, so you know what you're looking for as you're trying to build a 200 or 150 or whatever you're looking for.
I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I love that we
Okay.
did this because this is the most common question I get in my clan that I answer, and I love that you can just go see it now.
Yeah, having information in game is great. I think the biggest thing about this is that because the bands are a lot narrower, you have a much
W
better
Bungie,
indication
man.
of what
W
you're getting,
Bungie.
like, before you even start the activity. So, like, I know a lot of people, like, you go into a master dungeon to farm some artifice armor, and you don't know if you're going to get like 55 or 70. Yeah, it's like an extremely wide range, but like that takes a lot of time and effort to get through. So now it's just like you're going into the toppest end difficulty thing to get tier 5s. You know exactly what you're getting.
Yeah.
So
and with
it's significantly more likely that when you get your drop, it's going to be something valuable. It might not be valuable to your exact build, but it will be valuable. It'll be the stats total that you want.
Yeah, Eric.
Yeah, and with the new portal system, which we'll talk about next week, you're going to have a score goal that you want to hit to get that exact armor piece, and it's like more targeted farming or more targeted. If I want to chase a certain thing, like I know what I have to do to get it, and when it drops, I know what it's going to give me as far as the total value, right?
Yeah.
And it's just much more clear and exciting. So.
And go ahead.
I really like, we're mousing over here, the armor archetype. We now like display what things are going to be high on it and what things are going to be low. And they're like a little further apart where things are going to be spikier now. And so like, if you want to really max out stats, you can just look for that, emblem. You'll know what your armor is kind of like going to be good at. And it's
You can see that like at your main inventory level too. So you're just like mousing over like, oh, I just got a bunch of drops. What did I get? Cool. Is it gunner? Is it grenadier?
Right.
Like what is the thing that I want? You can use that as like a quick reference rather than needing to go all the way into inspection and see like the exact stats.
And the last
mean,
detail on tier 5
see
for
it,
armor, we mentioned this in the reveal stream, but you can get to 11 energy for your armor. So it helps with build crafting. You can get more of those armor mods slotted.
Why not go 12, bro? Make it even.
Yeah, right.
It
So
does
switching
better,
over to
yeah.
weapons, though, I would love to. We have some examples of tier 1, tier 3, and tier 5 weapons to show what is that progression looking like.
Yeah, similarly, when a weapon drops, I'm able to just glance at it and be like, oh, tier 1 weapon, it's going to have base stats, it's going to have a limited perk pool there. But then you can see at tier 3, we now have two
Master
enhanced traits.
arms
We have,
on the. Okay, hold on.
some
That's
of our
kind of
columns are
crazy,
gonna
bro.
have
What
more
are
perk
they
options
doing?
in them. and then tier 5.
And it has hatchling
Yep,
with
so this is the tier
Shran.
3, and then tier
Nigga.
5 is going
That
to
pulse
have
rifle
you
is going to
look
be
at-
broken.
Look at the options here. And
What
so
is that
much
weapon mod? What is that weapon mod?
enhancement, And
Yeah, in
we
tier
have
4 you get the enhanced weapon mods too.
right.
Oh, increased ammo
Kind
generation.
of like how armor is like you have a much better understanding of like when I'm starting an activity, what is the expectation of the things I'm getting. This like the
This
multiplayer
gun
and
is
the
gonna be
enhanced
cracked.
Kind of work for that too. So the odds of you getting that like specific god roll or multi-god roll, if you're looking for like the combo PvP PvE weapon.
Yeah.
Every
are
other
a
armor
lot
is now used to
higher
clean your volts.
Than like in past activities where you're just
Those
getting,
is made
I'm
for our
gonna get
current
one
high
hit,
stat
one
artifice
trait in
armor.
each column.
Yeah, and we're adding a lot of depth. Like as we were hovering over those enhanced perks, they have additional things that they can do, whether it be stats or power for the perk. We're putting all of these details into the game so people know as they're getting into this depth, they can hover over these things, understand all the different stats. We'll of course have blog components. We'll have some guides that our players make, our creators make. We'll blast those out, but we're hoping to bring more of these sorts of things into the game to make it easier to understand. So,
Yeah, that said, if you have a great weapon drop that, dropped this season or 5 seasons ago, if it's a good roll, it's a good roll. Like it's, just because it doesn't necessarily adhere to the tier system doesn't mean it is not equal or greater value in some
yeah, there was this really funny reference that Mactix made, one of our creators, where he had this beautiful giant sword, and he's like, this is what I got today, and it has perfect rolls for a rocket launcher, et cetera, and here's my new tier 1 weapon that doesn't really have good perks. Like, what are you going to use?
Yeah.
So to answer the question, Shadow on Blue Sky was asking, are my weapons that I have right now or armor, like, is that going to be viable in high-end content? And the answer is, of course. There are going to be a couple things in here that add incentive to try out new things, but Vivian, you had kind of framed it as a cherry on top, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And it's also like a way to, in the past, sometimes like the best way to get your path to power was like to do a lot of something. But now if you like do really hard activities as well, we're also just kind of rewarding you for the time there.
Yeah. So right at the
Talk
9.
about
go
future gear stuff in relation to this.
Yeah, we will in a second, but I just wanted to touch on Ride of the 9. Some folks were asking, like, what do these equate to in the tier system? And when you get an Adept Ride of the 9 weapon, both of your columns are enhanced, all that kind of stuff. Like, it looks like a tier 3. It's going to feel like a tier 3 for a while, so there is a good handshake as you're going into Edge of Fate. But yeah, the last thing for Tier 5 gear, I would like to show the cosmetic treatment that we've been doing. We showed this in the reveal stream, but Tier 5s have an awesome new shader treatment and also kill effects.
Yeah, so these basically on the weapons, they'll come with like fancy shader on it, and then something almost kind of similar to what we do with Sweaty Confetti, but now it's like a specific slot where it gets a custom kill effect.
That's kind of fire. That's kind of like
Yeah, and you can see
The
what you're
happy-
doing is
happy
it's kinda learning a
birthday
bunch
for
of
Halo?
lessons through the years.
That's all
of
that
using,
is.
like, kill effects are really cool. Players like this. Now we have a new slot for it. Players really like hollow foils as a chase in the game right now, and now we have tier 5s where you get sort of a hollow foil style treatment for it. So it's been really cool to watch y'all develop this over time. But to your point, this actually is a good segue into the next section where we're talking
what
about
do you use
new
restaurant?
featured gear and our artifact. So Eric, if you want to take the stage, what is new or featured gear?
Yeah, so our new gear, when we drop new weapons and armor for a season or for a release, that is going to get a bonus. It's going to be a little bit stronger than your other options. So on the armor side, you are going to get a damage resistance bonus per piece you have equipped, and that is, it kind of scales by gear tier. So if I have 5 tier 1 armor pieces, I'm going to have 5% damage resistance against everything. But if I have 5 tier 5 gear pieces, I'm going to have 15% damage versus everything. So I guess, yeah. So it is something that allows me to have a little bit of an edge. It's a very small amount. It's a min-max sort of situation where if I wanted to wear stuff that is not in the new gear pool, Like, I am not at a huge detriment.
Right, right.
But
Something that gives you like that little bit of edge to like inch out into like the highest tier stuff when you like really need just a little bit more health or a little bit more damage.
Yeah, speaking of damage, so you can see that the max is actually 10%. This is a clarification. We invited some folks into the studio to look through all of this. The original number was 15%. It's actually 10% on your additional damage when you get all your tier 5 weapons equipped. So again, cherry on top, where it kind of gives you that edge, and also it gives you a way, kind of like in earlier releases where you walk out into the tower and you're wearing all your raid gear. You're kind of like peacocking, as y'all have framed it. And now it's, oh, hey, I have all tier 5 gear. This shows like, not only have I mastered this content, but I've earned a bunch of really cool stuff, gotten all the gear I want, and now I can carry my team through. So. When it comes to the new gear as well, what's the way that you identify that as a player?
yeah, so if you see that little kind of teal icon in the top left corner of the armor piece, that is going to that's going to tell me that it is in the new gear pool. So it's not only gear from this season or release, but it is also gear. It's like a collection of exotic pieces as well.
Yeah,
So-
if we hop into the collections really quick, there's actually a new section that's going to show, here's our featured gear. So if you have some things from previous releases, those are going to be a part of the build crafting as well.
Correct.
A note for any newer players or returning players, some of these things are actually like, you can go to Xur, try to grab those. You can go into Rite of the Nine. Emissary is going to have a few things like Graviton Lance. That's a great thing to pick up before this new release starts, so then you have a little bit of an edge going in.
Yeah, if y'all screenshot this, you can start hunting this stuff down right now, right?
Yeah, and
the
we will
list.
have follow-up blogs where we're going to go line by line. I understand, like, this stream has a lot of data. It has a lot of numbers, that kind of stuff. Big lists of gear. We'll have a full bulleted list, not just in TWIDs, but in patch notes as we keep going. So I think with that, we can go into the artifact as well.
Cool.
Yeah, so the artifact this time around, we're going and we're exploring Kepler. So kind of going with that theme is we wanted this to be kind of like, scout the wild frontier. And so to that end, it's kind of a little longer range weapon-wise than some of our recent artifacts. One of the other themes that we wanted to get was this is going to be me and my fire team, So if you're scouting solo, we have stuff for solo. If you're scouting as a group, we have stuff as a group. Then lastly is we made this artifact a little more weapons focused than we maybe normally do, because we wanted to kind of highlight that kind of the Guardian's kit, kind of down to earth, kind of grit thing. Some of my favorite perks in these are in the fifth column. There's that first one is Radiant Shrapnel. And this is going to add an additive shrapnel burst when you're killing guys when they're radiant or when you're radiant or they are scorched. And I actually really like that we pay out scorched a little because sometimes you can't quite get that ignition,
So
and
that's going to pair really well with the Warlock exotic coming out. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You can scorch a bunch of guys, and then you can cause them to alt burst. It's very cool. The fourth one in this column also is a favorite of mine. It's Tangled Web. And this is going to suspend everyone when you generate a tangle via combat. And normally we do that effect, we reserve that effect for breaking the tangle, right? And now it's on creation, and it leads to a very fun situation where you can just kind of walk up and take it, and you're like, thank you guys, I'll be back. And they can't do anything, and it kind of gets you there faster if you're not using grapple grenade or something.
It works really well with the Hunter exotic.
It also works really well with the Hunter exotic. It's lots of fun.
Awesome. Yeah, I think, so there's a question from V. Ferrer sorry if I pronounced that wrong, asking, are there going to be more seasonal mods? And with the artifact, you can see next major update, there's going to be another row, as people know. With the featured gear, there's also going to be added exotics to that pool. And Bjorn, I believe we are also making some new seasonal mods that'll be released over time, correct?
Yeah, kind of in the same way that we did last season, where we had the Taken theme set of weapon mods. We'll have the same thing for this release's theme. That you can find those out as they come.
Perfect. All right. Well, wow. I believe we are at the end of the stream. Thank you so much for joining us on the couch. Everybody out there, thank you so much for joining us during this live stream to see what we have to offer. We do have another live stream next Tuesday, July 1st, same time, same place, different cast, sorry. I'll invite you back soon. But we're going to be talking Portal power progression. So what are you playing? How are you earning things? How are you getting up to these tier 5s? And also, how are you customizing your experience in the Portal with new Banes, new modifiers, all that kind of stuff? Just because this is information heavy, as I mentioned, we do have a slate of blog content that'll be coming live. We'll have a recap on Thursday. We have a standalone next Wednesday that'll talk a little bit more about gear tiering. Next Thursday, we'll also have another recap for that stream and additional sandbox information. And then we keep marching into launch with more patch note previews, gear previews, all that kind of stuff. So outside of the full suite of gear you'll be earning on Kepler, bunch of stuff to discover. So thank you so much again for joining. This has been a fun stream. And as we leave, we're going to toss you over to our good friend Fallout. He's going to be talking through a bunch of what we said today. He was one of the creators that we invited to Bungie with hands-on, so he can explain some things. And we'll be collecting questions throughout the rest of the day to answer in the Twit. Thanks so much for joining, and we'll see you next time.
No, Bungie. Listen. Two things. Alright. One, we do not know whether, I don't think he said it, artifact mods are going to be saved in loadouts. That needs to be a thing. Second, she said they're making the artifact weapon heavy? What the fuck is that, nigga? It should be for the subclass. I don't need it for my fucking weapon. What kind of bullshit is that? Bungie. I know Dado, my name is Bife. Been watching this shit.
Okay, so let's jump in and talk about the few bits and pieces we did learn about Kepler.
I am
And I
now
think the most
eligible to get
important
the
bit
Astro
here,
Man.
before we
Have
go
I
into
ever-
any of it is that, yeah, I
kind
think I
of
should drop a
Because
spoiler
also,
warning.
we gave
One of the
some
cool
feedback.
Okay, hold
Some
on.
of you will not want
Okay, so let's. There's something I do want to go back to because I meant to be able to pause.
Weapons, like your weapons
They
are
were
going to be
doing
more
the
potent than
little
they were
stat
before, but
loadout
it's at
breakdown
the expense. We're reworking the stats, crafting in your armor.
If you want to
We got health, then we have
Okay, so health. Increase the amount of health you gain each time you pick up an orb of power. Reduces flinching from incoming fire while aiming a weapon. Health per orb, so it tells you how much. Flinch resistance, and hence benefits. So this is after you get past stat 100. Your shields to recharge more quickly and have additional health when facing combatants. So it kind of makes recovery in there a little bit.
melee.
Melee reduces your melee cooldown, increases the amount of melee energy from all sources. Tells you how much cooldown yours at melee energy gain. Damn. Hold on, this is only at 48? What the fuck? Increase the amount of damage done by your melee attacks. Titans are gonna go crazy with that shit.
Grenade.
Okay, grenade. Reduce your grenade ability cooldown. Increase the amount of grenade energy from all sources. Grenade 175. Oh Jesus. Increase the damage done by grenades.
Super.
Amount of super energy from all sources. Okay, class ability. Reduce your class ability cooldown. Increase the amount of class ability energy provided by all resources. 190%. That's double the amount. You gain an overshield when you use your class ability. Oh, warlocks. We gonna lock in, nigga.
Class. and
We
then our
gonna
weapon
lock
stats.
in
So
with that. Weapons. Increase weapon reload speed. I like that. Handling. Increase damage against minor and major combatants. Enhanced benefit. Ammo breaks from defeated targets have a chance to obtain additional rounds. Increase weapon damage against bosses and opposing guardians. And then it shows the breakdown for PvE and PvP. Okay. These are interesting. I really like. Bro, people are gonna. Oh, not this one. People are going to abuse this benefit right here. I'm assuming that it's the same on all characters. Like, it doesn't change whether you're Warlock, Titan, or Hunter. People are gonna abuse this one. I feel like that's just an automatic one you have to have at this point. And then with this, you're also going to be putting in mods to focus on your class ability. So you can almost always have an overshield at all times. I just wanted to see that. That's interesting to me. but I don't like also. I know he said like tier 1 armor and old armor, it's still gonna have its uses, but you're pretty much making it obsolete because now it's like I'm gonna have to have tier 5 armor to be top tier. And people aren't gonna want to play with me unless I got tier 5 on. They're gonna look at that as like I'm under light level. You know what I mean? They see me with all tier 1. They're like, what is this guy doing? You don't got tier 5, my dude? Like, lame ass people. I know it's gonna happen. And so I'm guessing exotics don't have a tier, just automatically just the exotic. Are they changing the exotic subclasses at all? Are they adding new perks, switching them out? Are we random? What are we doing? I don't like this new artifact either being focused around weapons. Oh, graviton spike. Okay, that was that thing he was using with the stasis. Implement a curiosity. Things didn't get interesting until the first apology. Damage resistance, kinetic power, energy, slot weapon damage. And then they said they're adding another like column or row at the end of each major season or something like that. Third iteration. I think that's already in the game. I might be bugging. Okay, hold on. Go. Wait, featured gear. Hold on, wait, hold on. Where's my headset? I wasn't paying attention at this part. Featured gear. Oh,
There's actually a new section that's going to show here's our featured gear. So if you have some things from previous releases, those are going to be a part of the building or build crafting as well.
Correct.
A note for any newer players or returning players, some of these things are actually like you can go to Xur, try to grab those. You can go into Ride of the Nine. Emissary is going to have a few things like Graviton Lance. That's a great thing to pick up before this new release starts, so then you have a little bit of an edge going in.
Yeah, you know,
An
y'all
edge of
screenshot
fate,
this,
you
can
say?
start hunting this stuff down right now, right?
Yeah,
Add to
and
the
we will
list.
have follow-up blogs where we're going to go line by line. I understand, like, this stream has a lot of data. It has a lot of numbers, that kind of stuff. Big lists of gear. We'll have a full bulleted list, not just in TWIDs, but in patch notes as we keep going. So I think with that, we can go into the artifact as well.
Cool.
Yeah, so the artifact this time around, we're going and we're exploring Kepler. So kind of going with that theme is we wanted this to be kind of like, scout the wild frontier.
so these are going to be our champion mods. So we have Scout Pulse for anti-barrier. I think that's hand cannon sidearm for unstop, sniper unstop, and then shotgun for overload. And then SMG and auto rifle for overload. I think I got some. This is good for me to know because I can make some. I can already, acquire some weapons or craft some weapons to make sure that I'm set for this.
And so to that
Especially
end,
with exotics.
it's kind of a little longer
They just gave me the heads up.
weapon-wise than some of our recent artifacts. One of the other themes that we wanted to get was this is gonna be
All scavenger mods are discounted.
me and my fire team,
Wait, hold on. What was that? You blazed over it. Slow that down.
To get was this is gonna be me and
You are getting shot at. Frost renewal. While you have frost armor, taking critical damage releases a burst that freezes nearby combatants and gains frost armor. Grants frost armor to you nearby allies. What was that sidearm one? Rapid non-sidearm final blows. Grant sidearms appear to increase damage for a short time upon next roll. Okay. Ooh, that would be good when on top too, I guess. Depending what sidearm you're using. Exotic. Shoulder to shoulder, dealing sustained precision damage against 2 combatants while near 2 or more allies grants you damage resistance. What the fuck? Why would... Are you... Bungie, what kind of... Like, what are we talking about here? I feel like I've seen the name of this perk before. This was like Wellspring. I was expecting it to be class oriented so that I could make some more new builds. Because the one right now, I don't know, maybe they saw Titans being so broken, they're like, nah, we about to fix that shit. Okay, you're going too slow now.
Is are in the fifth column.
Oh, wait, no,
There's
you just went over something.
in the fifth column.
Elemental Overdrive. Picking up an elemental pickup or tangle grants increased damage to the weapons of the same element. Why don't you just say elemental pickup? A tangle is an elemental pickup. So it doesn't matter, it's just elemental pickup. What do you... Why are you going over that? What's that, you bitch? No, 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 no. What was that? Stop fucking around with me. Radiant Shrapnel. Dealing sustained weapon damage while radiant or defeating a scorched combatant with a weapon causes hard to release solar projectiles to deal damage and scorch on impact. So basically they just ignite. God. Wait. No, because I had to defeat the enemy. Yeah, that's just ignite, bro. Feed and chill. I noticed how you went over this this encore shit right here. Fever and chill, rapid precision hits with solar weapons grants radiant. Rapid precision hits with stasis weapons grant frost armor. Why does that have to be precision hit? Yeah, you're intentionally going around that fucking perk, you bitch. Oh no, what was that? What was that? While you have Woven Mail, Frost Armor, or Void Overshield, your melee charges faster and deals increased damage. While you're Amplified or Radiant, your grenade charges faster and deals increased damage. Okay, that I like. Cause plus with the Overshield, like I said, the stat mod where you gain a over... Well, wait, no. Cause does that count as a Void Overshield? Or is that just an overshield? That might not increase melee or count for this artifact perk. But then Amplify Radiant grenade charges faster. Ooh, that could be good, especially for people who use healing builds with Warlock. Obviously Striker Titan. Okay. Tangled Web. Creating a tangle by defeating a trend debuffs target suspends nearby combatants. Why is that not just a fragment on the fucking subclass? Why is this artifact perk? What I'm talking about, bro. Just make that a fragment. Oh, now you go to this fucking perk. Defeating a tangle with strand damage increases the rate of explosion and its damage. It's good for hunters who are running that build with the web shit. Whatever. You know what I'm talking about. Threaded needle, I think it is, or something. Next major update, artifact expands in that many days and hours. So when it expands, it doesn't change, right? Like we just get more artifact perks to choose from. That's all just happening there, right? Alright. Well, that's the end. Well, y'all, I hope y'all like this. I don't know your thoughts about the Destiny Edge of Fate developer live stream. I gave my thoughts. Like I said, I feel like this artifact should have been more subclass oriented. One, they need to confirm or deny. Are we getting artifact mods saved to subclasses? I need that. And then the whole gear tier 5 and shit, I feel like it's making old gear obsolete. Which I feel like one, add crafting. I mean, yeah, either this is armor 3.0. I thought maybe they were honestly going to add armor to the crafting table, because I don't know. Some things are just questionable and they're not giving me full information, and I need them to confirm or deny. All right. Anyway, that's it. I'm out.